Hello and welcome to another episode of Eric's podcast. I'm your host, Eric, and today we're going to talk about building things and how you should not build things out of hate. Why? Because what you build is going to show and come through the finished product. If you build something out of hate, that's going to show up in the end. It's going to show up to your customer. It's going to show up to your listener or reader. It's going to show up to the purpose of the item or thing or whatever. If it's born out of hate, that is going to be there in the product. I know it sounds weird or crazy or whatever. Take it as you will. But it's also the mindset of you. And if you're building a business too, it's going to be the mindset of your employees. It's going to be the mindset of all your written statements, everything. If it is born out of hate, then that is going to show up and affect the end result. You want to think about, why are you building the thing that you're building? If you're building a business, why are you doing it? A lot of people will just say, so I can make money. And that is not a very good answer. Because if it's a successful business, it's gonna make money either way. So a better approach would be, what is the purpose of, going back to the company example, what is the purpose of this company? What is the purpose of the product? What do I want my customers to feel when they're using this product? And that's important because it goes into the design of the product. It goes into the functionality of the product. And you want your product to feel good to use. A lot of business makers and designers, they're not thinking like this. They're not considering the feelings of the person actually using it. And that's why there's so many designs and so many things that fail, because they're not able to capture enough feeling on the end customer for the customer to continue using it or to recommend it. If your product feels great to use and is a great experience and gives them joy to use, then you've made a successful product. And the only way to do that is for you to think that way when making it. So you want to figure out what the end result is. What do you want your users to feel? Do you want them to feel like they're saving time? Then you need to design the app to where everything's fast and quick and sufficient, and the functionality everything can be done in less than 3 steps. Do you want them to feel happy or joyful or maybe comforted? Well, then that goes into your colors and how you want the colors and the angles, and whether you want things rounded or squared. All of those give off a different feeling. And the same thing goes in product design. And it's more feeling in terms of physical feeling in product design than it is in an app. But an app, you're designing for the eyes and ease of use. And a product, you're designing for the feeling and functionality. Same goes for writing a book or maybe doing a podcast. If I did this podcast when I first wake up where I'm grumpy, you probably wouldn't like to listen to me. But waiting till I'm in a better mood and I actually care, that comes through. And same thing goes for your writing. If you're writing a book or a blog post or something like that, the way you write it is going to come through to the end person. You know, it's interesting because whenever I would get, I won it, but, well, not true. So you've heard never, well, maybe you haven't heard it, but I'll just give you an example. There was a big thing that was happening with a business that I was running, and a client was being very difficult. And I was already running another business at the same time, and I was just like fed up with this client, didn't want anything to do with him anymore. And I wrote this really long, in anger and frustration email. And I came back, I didn't send it because I was like, you know what? I should probably take a breather. I feel like the frustration and anger is not in here because I didn't really, I used professional language and all that. But I'm going to take a breather and I'm going to see if I'll just send it over to my dad because he's very successful. So I'm going to send it over to him and see if it's appropriate. So my dad read it and he came back. He was like, there's a lot of frustration and hate in this email. You probably should not send it and probably should take a day and rewrite it. And so I took a day and I came back, and then I could see all of the frustration and the way it was written and the structure of it and everything. And I could not see that the day before. So I didn't send it. I rewrote it, obviously. But it's a good example it's just a fast example of creating a product or creating a business. If you're doing it out of hate, if you're doing it out of anger, that is going to come through. If you're saying like, oh, I'm going to do this no matter what, nothing's going to stop me, that's going to come through to your end customer. And it's not going to be a good experience, and the likelihood of it failing is much greater. So, and goes for your employees too. Anybody that you want to work with is going to feel that same thing. You need to build a nurturing environment for your employees also, so they want to work there. And then your customers will see how happy your employees are and will want to work with you. And your employees will praise the company and all of these other things. So that is one of the biggest things that I would say in terms of advice when starting something new is really you want to make sure you know why you're doing it and know that why is going to show up at the end when you're done. Okay, well, thank you for joining me for another episode of Eric's podcast. If you have any questions or you want to send me a quick email, I might reply to it as long as it's not super long. It's eric@ericspodcast.com. And I'll see you in the next episode, and thank you for listening.